It is the Doug Karns program here on All Noise Radio. 267-495-4866 or dougkarnsprogram@gmail.com is the ways you can get in touch with us. Or you can like us on Facebook. Just go to the Facebook and search for the Doug Karns program. All right, so last break, Joe, we were talking about Obama and his policies and regulators. Now, a lot of people think the Roaring '20s was because of deregulation, right? I mean, it makes sense. You know, nobody was watching over the markets, so the evil markets could do whatever they want, and they just caused this massive crash in the 1930s, right?
Well, that's the public school
yeah, I mean, that's
textbook right there.
That's the dummy version. Mm-hmm. Well, it actually turns out that it wasn't deregulation. It was actually spending and tax cutting. So when Wilson left office, the progressive tax rate was almost 70%. So the richest of the richest were paying a lot of money to the government. So when Harding got elected, guess what he did? Just take a wild guess.
Well, maybe cut a little tax.
Now,
maybe cut spending, cut taxing.
Now, to the average listener, that doesn't make sense because how does cutting spending and cutting taxes create wealth or, a better economy?
It's impossible.
Well, maybe because people get to keep their money that they earn. So in 1920, right, we actually had unemployment above 12%. Above 12%. That's where we are today, right?
Roughly,
yeah. Yeah. So Harding came in and said, hey, we need to cut spending and cut taxes for people that hold on more of their money. So what he did, he cut taxes down to 25%, the marginal rate from 70 to 25%. All right, evil hate monger that he is. He let people keep more of their money. Then he let businesses keep more of their money. Next, he cut spending by 50%. He cut the budget in half.
How could he do that?
I mean, he's just such an evil person. I mean, think about all the people he left to die out there. I mean, he's
disgusting. So the government needs that money.
The government needs that money to take care of you.
Yes.
They need to hold your hand. They need to...
I can't believe he did that.
I know.
Why would you even mention that?
What a racist. That just
makes me sick.
Racist Harding is.
Environmental racist.
You heard it first here on the Doug Karns program. Harding was a racist. So anyways, President Harding came in, cut spending, cut taxes. Want to take a guess where unemployment was the next year?
Well, I probably half that.
Wow, that was a pretty good guess, Joe. 6.7%.
Oh.
6.7.
Nice.
So in 1 year, unemployment got cut in half. Okay, now let's fast forward to 2009, where if the stimulus package, where Obama said unemployment would not go above 8.1%, would not go above, and then it will eventually come back down to 7%, right? If we pass that. Where are we today?
A little bit above that. About 9. Or are we still above 9?
Just a tad bit, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually, the real number is 11%, but the reported number is 9%.
Yeah.
So
what do they call that? It's like M6 or U6?
Yeah, U6, yeah.
U6,
the unemployment numbers. There's 6 different unemployment ratings they go through, but the 9% is an actual U3 number, so it doesn't include everybody. So we fast forward, and unemployment's actually gone up with his policies of trying to create more spending and more taxation to help take care of the people in need, right? So let's go back now, 1920. So 2 years later after that, in 1923, what do you think the unemployment was, Joe? Because you're learning along with some of the listeners right now.
Yeah. Well, in 1923, probably like 4.
Lower.
3.
Lower.
2, 1.
That was about 2%.
Okay.
2.3% unemployment, which says every idiot known to man had a job, and the ones that didn't want a job or couldn't work, the disabled, didn't have a job. That's about it. Everybody had a job in the 1920s. That's why we call it the Roaring 20s, because people had refrigerators, they had cars for the first time, they had radios for the first time. It was a booming year. Now this is where it gets a little sketchy because a lot of history books like to say it was deregulation. So in 1929, when the market crashed, they said it was because of deregulation. The markets could do whatever they want. They were so evil. They took that money and they frivolously spent it.
So it took 10 years to make the Great Depression happen?
That's what they like to say. But really what happened was, guess who came into office after Coolidge?
Hoover.
The greatest Republican president. No, not really. He actually raised taxes to almost back to the 70% mark. Not too close. I forget what the actual number is. But he raised taxes so high and he raised spending. He almost doubled spending during his term, which gave us the Great Depression. Because all of a sudden you took all this freedom in the market where they're creating wealth, and all of a sudden you just slowed it, you like halted it or stopped it right there in its tracks because you started spending and taxing so much more. So it's almost like you have to look at the free market is a force. You can't stop it. I mean, it's a force that it will keep going. Think of it as a river. It goes around rocks. Every time you put a rock in there, consider the government, the water goes over it. The free market will work its way around it as long as you let it work. But by taking money out of the system, you're not letting it work because you're taking more taxes in. So that caused a crash.
Yeah.
Then,
well, a lot of liberal textbooks will say Hoover was the kind of do-nothing kind of president.
Yeah, he was actually do-everything president.
So they're not going to mention...
And that's what FDR said.
Raising taxes and raising spending and all that, they're not going to mention that was what...
No, they don't, because that's their progressive way. Hoover was a progressive.
He just did nothing.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's what FDR said. It's the same game that we see today with the Republicans and Democrats. They're both the same party. But they come up with catchy lines for the other party saying, the Republicans are evil, loving, greaseballs, and then the Republicans will call the Democrats pot smoking tree huggers. Like it's the same. They're the same party. They're just calling each other names.
Tax and spend. And spend.
It's really, really, really big government on one side, and then really, really big government on the other side. And that's all Hoover and FDR were. Because FDR, that's what he was saying. He was saying Hoover did nothing. He actually did a lot. He actually had Congress spend more than what they should have been spending. And then you have FDR come in. His policies, the New Deal, and creating the WPA, the Work
Progress, or is it Progress Association?
Something like that. I don't know. But anyway, so it's supposed to put Americans back to work, like with the construction jobs. So his policies now, he gets so involved. He spends more than any president has ever spent before.
Combined,
yeah.
Ever.
I mean, this is before Obama. But, he spends so much and he taxes so much. Then why did the Great Depression last for 10 years with those policies when the Depression of 1920, which was, 12% unemployment, that's pretty huge. And it dropped in 3 years to 2%.
Yeah.
Do you see the difference in the policies? You let the market work. You let the market run itself. Now, if somebody was doing something evil in that market and it was against the law, they should be prosecuted and, put in jail. But other than that, there shouldn't be any kind of regulation. That's what's gotten us in this problem in the first hand. All right, well, that's enough Obama. Speaking of FDR, our good buddy Newt Gingrich, who... I hate to say it, John, I don't want to put you out there, but you were supporting at first. But on your defense, you didn't really know much about him at the time. He just seemed like a good winner to go up against Obama.
Well, compared to everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, he had the fireworks going.
And then I learned something.
Yeah.
So a lot of things.
Yeah.
Why isn't really Clinton, FDR in more unfavorable times?
I'll give you my biased answer, which always gets me in trouble on the right. No one is FDR. FDR is the great...
Yeah, that gets you in trouble on the right because you are saying no one's greater than FDR, who helped prolong the Depression for 10 years. And again, another thing about the Great Depression, the war got us out of it, but wars don't always get us out of depressions. Look at 1920 again. I just thought about the little tidbit because I always hear that from everybody. oh, the World War II got us out of the Great Depression. No. I mean, it did, only because it put a lot of people back to work.
Yeah.
But how about 1920? We didn't have a war then. We were just coming out of World War One. So don't give me that, wars get us out of a depression.
Greatest practitioner of self-government, certainly in the 20th century, and maybe in American history. And FDR, as governor of New York in good times, was very progressive. The greatest politician of the 20th century in this country, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The greatest liberal democratic president of the 20th century, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The greatest democratic president of the 20th century, and in my judgment, the greatest president of the 20th century. The most effective president of the country, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR is the greatest political leader of the 20th century.
Who's your favorite modern-day politician?
FDR. And if you go back and look at somebody like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he is such a dominating figure because he actually got things done. If you look at FDR defending America as a positive, optimistic civilization in 1933, John's father was one of the great stalwarts of the New Deal, a man who, as an FDR Democrat, created modern America. And I think that John and his father represent a tradition that we all have to recognize and respect, and recognize that the America we are now going to try to lead grew from that tradition and is part of that great heritage. And what we're talking about is a transition at least as big as, if not bigger than, the New Deal.
All right, so he doesn't like FDR, does he?
Oh, he loves him.
Yes.
He doesn't like him. He loves
He
him.
loves him. And
This is a problem.
it really is, because, and this goes for you and me, Joe, because I think a lot of people are waking up now, but I know as being a former Republican, I was always accused of always voting Republican. Nowadays, I would say that, look at us, we're tearing apart Republican candidates because all we want is the truth and we want to be honest. Mm-hmm. And Newt Gingrich is an awful, awful candidate. And we'll go through when we're up against a hard break coming up. When we come back, we're going to go through some of his policies that he's enacted as a speaker and elsewhere. And you won't believe how this guy should be running as a Democrat at this point.
Yeah, after seeing this list of things that we don't like as conservatives, we're looking at another McCain. I'm convinced.
Yeah. And I believe in this country we all share the same values, but we've been so divided that we try to tear each other apart. So I want you as a listener, just the next segment, just listen to us and ask yourself, do you agree with us or you don't? Because I believe we all share the same values. We all want a good America. We want a great America.
Yeah, it just depends on how you do it.
Yeah.
I know Obama probably wants a great America. It's just that he's
a Marxist.
I like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I try to.
The things he says, I mean, he wants a collective society, which is Marxism.
Well, that's his way of...
I mean, Karl Marx himself said he enacted a collective society. So what makes you different from Karl Marx? Nothing. He's a Marxist. But
well,
I know what you're trying to say.
That's his way of making this country better.
Yeah.
You know, he just sees it better. A different way.
Yeah, because we know how well communism works. All right, we'll be right back after this.